Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. You're busy. I know you're busy. Don't worry about it. I've got you covered. You haven't got time to be reading up on every single club, trying to figure out if they're good, what to expect from them. I'll do that for you because I'm a loser. If you... I'm going to provide you a Premier League season guide. Quick fire. Quick fire. Don't worry about it. I can be your hero, baby. I can guess away the pain. I can preview every club. In this video, what I'll be doing is going through every single club and offering the following. What to expect, the biggest strength, the biggest weakness, and the key player. Let's get into it, starting with Arsenal. Oh yeah, sorry, before I do that in this quick fire video, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Come on. What to expect from Arsenal? Expect them to play out from the back a lot, like they did last season. They're displaying that in a big way this pre-season. This could be a bit concerning with Aubameyang on the left-hand side because he comes in quite narrow and it could hinder the left-back. Expect to see a left-back being hindered. The key player is going to be Bukayo Saka. The reason is he's really good and they relied on him time and again last season. In particular, in wide areas, it's going to be Tavares, a new signing, or Tierney at left-back. So I think Saka's going to be used in advanced positions. He's proven that. He's playing for England, getting to the byline, cutting it back in. He's going to be crucial. Look at this graph. The Arsenal team was at its most successful when Bukayo Saka was on the pitch. He's key. Biggest strength is probably the biggest weakness as well. Is the fact that there are individuals in there. He's trying to play team football. Of course he is. Passing it, possession, patience. But ultimately, there were moments where you had players that could step up for you. A great example, though, which makes it the weakness as well, is someone like Willian. 2 assists in the opening game, then didn't register another goal involvement for 2 months. Then it was another 3 months after he did it again. That's the problem with a lot of these players, is they don't have a player who has played excellent and has provided output game after game after game after game last season. This season, can they offer that up? The team also seems very unbalanced in attack and has a lack of symmetry in wide areas. Aston Villa, I mean, expect better things than you're probably worrying about at the moment, was the fact that Grealish is gone. Grealish was out of the team last season. The team struggled last season. But as a whole, season on season, this club is moving in the right direction. The signings of Buendia, Leon Bailey, Twanzebe, these are exciting young players who are ready for the Premier League and could make a better impact in what will now be a transition season for Aston Villa. Key player is going to be Buendia. He was unbelievable in the Championship last season, and some people will turn their nose up and go, that's the Championship, that's not the Premier League. We were saying that about Grealish. Turned out that he was all right, wasn't it? 15 goals, 16 assists, 15 times in the SofaScore Championship Team of the Week in a team that won the Championship. The guy's brilliant, ready to go in the Championship and ready to be an integral part. It's the perfect jump for him in his career, and he's the perfect fit for Aston Villa. Biggest strength, recruitment. They're signing the right players in the right areas at the right age. Simple as that. Biggest weakness, possibly a lack of depth in the defensive areas in particular. Yes, Twanzebe's been brought in and he can play a few roles, so that will massively help with that. But aside from that, maybe you're looking to bring through some of these youngsters to help with that. But you do worry if a couple of injuries affect the back line, then they might not have much in reserve. Brighton, what to expect? More of the same. They were good last season. Unexpected goals. I'm talking about expected goals. It doesn't mean anything. It's not real goals. Yeah, but they're playing decent stuff. All right? And Graham Potter will continue to do exactly that. Have a look at this graph. Yeah, they were good last season. Also, expect Enoch Mwepu to really complement Basuma in midfield for Brighton. Yves Basuma, Champions League quality player. Fact. I'm surprised he hasn't been picked up, but of course he probably costs a little bit too much at this moment in time, but he's only going to cost more as time progresses. Distribution, great in possession, defensive contributions were huge last season as well. He's in the top 10% in the league when it came to tackles per 90. Running out of breath, he's that good. Biggest strength, I think it's the tactical approach of Brighton. They know who they are. Some people kind of call it a little bit naive, but I think that's just people who are cynical. They played good football. Their expected goals against was the 3rd best last season. And again, you're going to get moody about the XG. Expected points, they were really good in that as well. It will pay dividends, this tactic. Biggest weakness, strikers. we talk about the XG, and the reason why they're struggling with the XG is because the strikers aren't taking the chances. They still haven't signed a striker, but the money from Ben White is in now, and the reason why we keep talking about them struggling with XG is partly down to the fact that they haven't got strikers who can take chances that are of a difficulty. So this season they need to go and use that Ben White money, buy a quality striker, and score some goals. Busy bumblebees. What to expect? More of the same in terms of that overarching approach that Brentford offer up and that we all kind of look at and go, maybe that should be us. And you're starting to see that with so many Football League clubs now in terms of going through the English system and progressing season on season. That is what Brentford are about. If they go down, so be it. But also expect them to play good football, effective football, attractive football. The ethos is there. It's been there for years. Expect more of the same, just in a higher division for the first time. The signings of Aya as a centre-back and Onyeka as a box-to-box midfielder are exactly what they needed, and that's, again, what you can expect with Brentford. Shrewd signings that, if they work out, great. If they don't and they go back into the Championship, they're going to have one hell of a squad next season. Key player, Ivan Toney. I mean, that's an obvious one, isn't it? Wow! But you should have known that one, guys. 31 goals in the Championship last season. Guy takes every chance he pretty much gets, and that's going to be huge for Brentford if they want to stay up, because if you've got a goal scorer who's scoring goals, then you've got a real chance. And I guess the problem is the other side of it is the fact that he was the only player to score double figures last season for Brentford. The biggest strength for Brentford is their mentality. They're just very, very cool in what they do. There are a lot of clubs that feel like they belong in the Premier League. Not so with Brentford. They know that it's about the process. It's always about the process. And with that, that's going to allow them to take on the big boys this year and not go, oh, look, we're only tiny little Brentford. It won't matter to them because they know who they are and they know that it will be down to the process, which will give them a confidence and a calm. Biggest weakness, it's kind of goals, just because Ivan Toney scores all of them. So if he has a bad period, November, December, those dark nights, it's winter and they're struggling to score goals, or he gets injured, then someone like Mbeumo needs to step up and start scoring goals for the team, and they'll all need to chip in. They might have been able to do that in the Championship. Can they do it in the Premier League? Burnley, what to expect? Exactly the same as you've seen in previous seasons. I'm a bit gutted because, you've got the takeover. You would have thought maybe they might throw a little bit of cash at it. Could have been a bit more exciting for Sean Dyche, whose contract runs out in 2022. So there could be a bit of rumblings about his future when inevitably a manager gets sacked in November, December. But expect more of the same. He will probably see out the season at the very least, and Burnley will play the exact same way. Key player, Chris Wood. I think that's a given. Regardless of any players that come in between now and the end of the season, Chris Wood will be the main man for Burnley because we know their style of play, and he scored 36.3% of their goals last season. Crucial. Burnley's biggest strength, they know who they are. Their solidarity as a group, they have no airs and graces. They know exactly what they're about, and they will continue to work harder than most of the opposition to be humble in how they play and to play in an organised and professional fashion. Biggest weakness, there's no plan B. It's rigid, it's 4-4-2, and organised is kind of a good word, but it's not that exciting a word. There's no plan B. There's no expansive way of going, okay, we're struggling, let's try this, and this could work for them. And with that, you then end up having a very clear ceiling, which is a bit boring. Chelsea, what to expect? I mean, well, if it's not going well, expect the manager to get sacked. If it does go well, then expect a title challenge. Since Tuchel came in, have a look at this. You can see that they were second in terms of the points. Yes, there's that big gap between Man City, who went on an incredible run, but they beat Man City twice in the space of a month. They seem to have their numbers. So with that in place, a manager who seems to be getting the best out of their team, a title challenge is completely on the cards. Key player, Mason Mount. He's one of their own. He's also just so smart in the way that he plays. Does he score goals? Yes. Does he create goals? Yes. Did he assist in the Champions League final? Yes. But it's more the fact that for Tuchel, a very tactical manager, he needs someone who can help demonstrate his ideas. And Mason Mount is exactly that. Not in a verbal way, in terms of his positioning and his ability to start the triggers and carry out the very intricate instructions that Tuchel wants to deliver. Biggest strength, I think the marriage of Tuchel and the squad, dare I say it, because you've got a very intelligent manager, and I think in terms of the reaction that you saw from Chelsea at the back end of last season, or whenever he came in, I guess it was January, you've seen that they're able to deal with the tactics that he wants to kind of put on their plate, take them in, ingest them, and see that on the pitch. That's a huge strength, especially for the top teams, because they've got that depth of squad. and they need to be able to utilise it to break down teams. Yes, I'm wearing a green top now. That's because Lukaku's pretty much signed for Chelsea, but the biggest weakness of it being the strikers doesn't apply anymore, so we need to look at something else. So the biggest weakness for Chelsea now, I think, is probably keeping everyone happy. You've got an unbelievable squad there, but the problem could be in such a tactical side with such a tactical manager, you need to be able to keep people on board. And with all these stars that, want to play, aren't just kids who are happy to be on the bench, he's going to have to sort of make sure he gets his man management right, something that he struggled with a little bit at times with PSG. Crystal Palace, what to expect? We expect them to be on the front foot a little bit more. Last season, in terms of possession, there was only 2 teams that had less than the 40% that they had, West Brom and Newcastle. I think now when they play those mid-table teams, I think with the personnel that they're bringing in, of course, Patrick Vieira as well, looking to develop them and change the style of play a little bit. Of course, it is a little bit dangerous and people will be scared of that, but the recruitment's, it's interesting. So I expect them to be that little bit more on the front foot. I'm going to go with Conor Gallagher. I'm a big fan of his. I think he'll bring a lot of energy to this team, which is exactly what they're going to kind of need in that midfield area, I think, as well, but also someone who's ready to drive forward. And in Patrick Vieira, you've got a manager there that should be able to get the best out of him, and he's done that previously. At Nice, during his time there, he was able to get the best out of Willan Cyprien, a centre midfielder who, prior to working with Patrick Vieira, was creating 0.38 goal-creating actions per 90. In the season that he had with Patrick Vieira, he developed him into a much more attacking player, and it went up to 0.51. So expect him to get a little bit more out of Conor Gallagher than you would have seen with West Brom. Biggest strength, we're going to go a bit left field here, and we're going to say Osian Roberts. You might not know who that is, but actually that's the mastermind, some say, behind Wales' 2016 Euros campaign. He was the right-hand man to Chris Coleman, who was that sort of front face, a bit like Gareth Southgate and Steve Holland, and he's gone to Crystal Palace. Now, the tactical side of this is going to be really important for a team that's in transition in terms of its style from Roy Hodgson to Patrick Vieira, so having someone like that, a great tactical mind, could be absolutely crucial. Could be a stroke of genius that you won't even see. Biggest weakness, the right-back position. With this kind of change of philosophy, we'll see how quick it develops. But your fullbacks are going to be very important if you're going to be a team that's going to be looking to get on the ball and looking to attack a little bit more. And on that right-hand side, there isn't really much depth or attacking quality at all, and that could hold them back. For Everton fans, it starts with a P, it gets you excited. That's right, pragmatism, baby. Ooh. Yeah, I mean, that's as exciting it could get for Everton. It's a bit of a scary time with FFP. Of course, they spent a hell of a lot of money over the last few years, and with Rafa Benitez being that kind of manager as well, expect pragmatism. Key player for Everton is going to be Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because I think that's how Rafa Benitez kind of likes to play. He likes those kind of strikers that are big, are going to win their headers. Think of Rondon, think of Crouchy back in the day. I mean, Crouchy didn't have much pace, but Rondon did, and it did allow you to play the ball in behind, but also to hit it up to your big man as well. And with 49.3% of his aerial duels being won last season, expect DCL to be front and centre again for Everton this season. I'm hoping this is a big strength, and I might be wrong with this. Let me know, guys, in the comments below. But I think possibly the biggest strength might be that the expectations are incredibly low this season, and that might be something that Rafa Benitez can kind of excel beyond, instead of kind of reaching for Champions League football or whatever it could have been over the last few seasons. Biggest weakness, possibly an element of jealousy within the fan base when you look at the likes of Aston Villa and the money that they're spending at the moment and the money they were able to bring in as well in terms of selling their assets. Everton aren't able to do that. On the pitch, the fullback areas is a clear area of weakness when it comes to pace. Real lack of pace in those wide areas. Leeds United, what to expect? Well, first of all, expect to see some great content from James Allcott. There's a video on it now if you want to go and watch it, having a look at the second season syndrome and how Leeds are going to be able to deal with that. Go check that out at the end of this video. But tactically, expect more of the same. High intensity, getting into the wide areas, though. The likes of Jack Harrison coming in on a permanent deal is huge for them because he knows the system. He hasn't got to learn the system. Rafinha did brilliantly last season in his debut season for Leeds United in this setup. So expect more of the same. Key player, Calvin Phillips. I mean, we've seen the growth of him over the last year. Not literally, I mean, as a footballer, going from Championship to Premier League to starting in the Euros for England in the final of the Euros. And I think for Leeds United in particular, we know how great he is with the ball, but I think for a team that doesn't have a lot of presence in terms of numbers in central midfield, he's going to be crucial in both, breaking up attacks, reading the play, but also starting attacks as well. Biggest strength for Leeds? I mean, they are unique, and the attacking vigour is, of course, one of those things. But I think actually how they ended the season last season, they got better as it went along, and I think they can use that momentum. Have a look at this. January 17th, from then on to the end of the season, they're only 2 points off second place Chelsea. So this is a team that kind of totally believes in who they are. They believe that they got something different, and I think that's a huge strength in itself. Biggest weakness when it comes to Leeds, as is often the case with expansive teams, it's errors. Errors cost you at the back. When you're playing cutthroat football, the defenders have got to be really good, and maybe in centre-back areas there's a lack of quality there, and maybe a lack of pace, importantly, as well, especially when you're going to have to defend one-on-one a lot of the time. There were 7 errors made by defenders that led to shots last season, and so with that in mind, maybe a little bit more quality is needed in those areas. With Leicester City, expect them to continue with that back three. They're having a look at Kabak. At the time of recording, they haven't signed him. You've got Daka has just come in. You've got Vardy. You've got Iheanacho have been exciting. And, of course, the fullback options that Leicester City have. I think it's guaranteed that they will play 3 at the back and then utilise those fullbacks. Key player, Tielemans. I don't know how there's not been more speculation. The guy is complete for me, and he's going to have a mixed season. It's going to be weird because he's going to have to play in different roles. If Maddison stays and plays against teams that maybe have a bit more of a lower block, then he will be a lot deeper. He'll play in that deeper role. But if Samare, who's just come in, he's a bit more of a box-to-box midfielder maybe, then Tielemans will play at least 5 yards further forward, and there will be a bit more of a responsibility on him to help with that attacking output for this team. Biggest strength for me with Leicester City, it's the balance of the squad. It's just really, really lovely. A lot of players that can play in different positions, but people's individual strengths, they really do seem to complement each other really well. In terms of the biggest weakness for Leicester City, I think maybe it is those wide areas. You're going to have the fullbacks bombing on, and that's fine. But Harvey Barnes likes to drift inside. Ayoze Perez likes to drift inside. In terms of isolating the opposition's fullbacks, I don't think you're ever really going to do that much. It's actually going to be down running through the channels and playing a bit more vertically. And sometimes not having that option to have out-and-out wingers is a bit of a shame. When it comes to Liverpool, expect incredible content looking at the psychological aspects of Liverpool, and if it is in fact their last chance. Video is out on the channel right now. Go check it out with sports psychologist Dan Abrahams and myself chatting about it. It's honestly really, really good. On the pitch, expect them to be a bit better than they were last season. They've gone up and got Konaté. Expect that high line to return. They'll be comfortable doing that, and expect the old Liverpool to return somewhat. Key player for Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Expect him to be back to his best. If you think about the championship winning season for them, he was averaging 4.28 shot creating actions per 90. Last season struggled, 3.65. Partly, I think, down to him being a little bit run down, possibly, but also the fact that he had different centre-back pairings alongside him. I think that really, really did hurt him. With Van Dijk and Konaté or Gomez there as well, I think he'll be back to his best. Biggest strength is that they're going to be able to get back to that press. They really are going to be able to do that. Of course, Wijnaldum has gone, but it's about that back line, and the fact that they're going to be able to move even higher up the pitch is going to be so helpful to the rest of the team. Biggest weakness? I mean, it probably still is the injuries or the fear of those injuries, and then possibly the over-reliance on the likes of Mane and Salah. And if there is a dip in form, we saw it with Mane last season, then there's a hell of a lot of pressure on someone like Mohamed Salah. Add to that the fact that you've got Henderson coming back properly, you've got Virgil van Dijk coming back, Joe Gomez coming back, a lot of integral players coming back. There's a lot of pressure on all of these guys to have a good season and to stay healthy this season. With Man City, expect dominance. I think I would really be amazed if you don't see that, just due to the depth that these guys have got. But there's with Harry Kane and there's without Harry Kane. At the time of recording, Harry Kane hasn't signed, but we just don't know at this moment in time. So if he does play, and you've got those 2 8s, and you've got Grealish getting involved in that, as well as Gundogan, who had the best season of his life last season, KDB maybe playing in one of those 8 roles, Foden getting involved as well. Expect those underlapping 8s to get to the byline and then pull the ball back. And if Harry Kane is there waiting for it, expect even more goals than ever before from this Man City team. Key player, Riyad Mahrez, one of the few players who wasn't at the Euros, has had that lovely long break. He's looked fantastic in pre-season, being a match winner in a few games, and we know he's always got that in his locker. Last season, stats are okay, 9 goals and 6 assists. I think he can go to a higher level, and I think if there's ever going to be a season where it's going to happen, it's going to happen this season. Biggest strength, world-class depth. I mean, it's what we expect from Man City these days, and Pep Guardiola just has so many technical options, tactical options, and the dominance that they have over the ball. It was something that was starting to kind of hurt them a little bit, but they've just kicked into a new gear over last season, and with new additions coming in, they're going to be incredibly hard to even get the ball off, let alone beat. Biggest weaknesses. Could it be, over-attacking? Could it be overthinking after that Champions League last season? Probably not in a Premier League domestic season, because Man City, it's water torture. They just dominate games and teams. And they've got the depth as well. But maybe the biggest weakness is Chelsea, because Tuchel has had his number last season. There is an element there that seems to be worrying for Man City. Can they do that over an entire season? That's kind of on Chelsea as much as it is on a Man City team that I think is quite possibly the most frightening squad I've ever seen in Premier League history. So when you look at the formation, you can see that Sancho's on that left-hand side. That's something that you can expect for the start of the season, because Marcus Rashford, of course, is going to be out for a little while. Greenwood will probably be on that right-hand side, and Sancho's the most comfortable in terms of, being able to go over to that left-hand side and to really contribute. Maybe you'll have Anthony Martial, but you're going to buy someone like Sancho. I think you want to utilise him, and Greenwood did do well at times. Yes, you might see Pogba there, but I think to kick off, you'll see Jadon Sancho on that left-hand side for Man United. Once Rashford returns, he will go over to that left-hand side, and you can expect Sancho to move over to the right-hand side, which will be massively beneficial for Aaron Wan-Bissaka going forward. I think he struggled with different partners on that right-hand side for him. And now having someone like Jadon Sancho there, who he knows is going to want to move inside at different times, he will learn the way that he plays, and I think you'll see a much better Aaron Wan-Bissaka this season. Key player, Bruno Fernandes. This guy, he's just got leadership. He's got a bit of spite in him. That's what I like about him, and I think the Euros will have annoyed him a little bit, and he'll want to come back and be loved and be the guy, and I think that's what he will return to Man United and feel. And so I think expect him to have a real fire in his belly and kick off the season in great form. Biggest strength? You only need slight additions now. Of course, I say slight additions. They cost a lot of money and you want world-class players. But I think at the moment, you've got quite a settled squad if you're a Man United fan. And you could be pleased with that. You've got people who generally as a squad are good enough for that level and good enough to get yourself second and aren't brittle as Man United players. And I think that is a strength in comparison to how we were looking at Man United last season. I've got to say, it's not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but it's the mixed messages that he's providing. He's got to decide, is this Man United Football Club who win trophies, or are you the underdogs? Because I think there's mixed messaging there, and at some point you've got to go, we've got a really good team here. We can go and win trophies, and the biggest trophies, because this is Man United. Newcastle, what to expect? Expect Groundhog Day. Expect True Geordie to sadly have to be moaning about all of this stuff once again for about 4 or 5 months of the season. And, if I'm going on the last few years, expect them to survive again. Maybe just, I don't know. I haven't really thought about their final position. Season predictions coming up very soon, by the way. But just expect more of the same. It feeling quite dour, sadly. Key player, Allan St-Maximin. You saw how much better Newcastle looked once he was in the team. And in particular, they were a much greater threat going forward. 7.11 dribbles per 90 last season shows two things. First of all, if you look at the rest of the squad, the next best was 3.48. So, first of all, he's being allowed off the leash, as it were. So, why is that happening? It's happening because they're toothless, or because tactically they haven't got much else going on. And Steve Bruce is going, go on then, just kind of go for it, because there's not much else knocking about. Biggest strength, they have kept hold of Callum Wilson and Allan St-Maximin. Those two, you saw the difference. They're so important. And in particular, Callum Wilson. He was able to really take every chance that kind of came his way. He was a real big game player for them, which was just huge when you've got the likes of Joe Linton alongside you as the other option. If Callum Wilson and Allan St-Maximin aren't playing in this team, they are finished. There is no way they survive in this division. The most notable weakness, I think, when you look at Newcastle United, it's Steve Bruce and that kind of lack of tactical knowledge or being switched on to make those moves. Callum Wilson himself said in an interview recently that the signing or the addition of Graham Jones into the backroom staff made them tactically more aware. I think that's kind of glaring. And what it leads to is a ceiling within a ceiling of Mike Ashley as the owner of this club. Expect this Norwich side to not be as green maybe as last time round. Last time round it was a lot of championship players. This time round it's probably 50-50 in terms of Championship players and then players are just way too good for it now. You know, the likes of Todd Cantwell, who's still a Norwich player at the time of recording, Max Aarons as well. Two players that previously I think were kind of just weren't ready for it. This season they are. Key player Milot Rashica. There's a big Buendia-shaped hole in this Norwich City side, something I think Norwich City fans were expecting. But the 25-year-olds come from Werder Bremen, and Stuart Webber and Daniel Farke feel like he could be that spark on that right-hand side. The good news is that he was in the top 2% in the Bundesliga when it came to completed dribbles last season, 2.65. The bad side is 3 goals and 2 assists last season. So he has the ability to be electric, but I think the pressure that's on him really is the fact that he needs to kind of hit the ground running for Norwich this year. The biggest strength, I think, for Norwich City is the fact that they've been down and gone back up, and a lot of that squad were there during that period. Daniel Farke as well. Again, he was such a young manager at that moment in time, certainly in the English Football League. They all now know who they are. They're a top 26 side, but at the same time, it will have hurt the way that they went down last season. And the likes of Pukki, the likes of Grant Hanley, those kind of players that have felt it, they will want to come back stronger and make a point this season that they are Premier League players. Biggest weakness, and this is one area I just do not understand when it comes to Norwich City, is that there is no depth in the striking positions. Pukki is your guy, and he started off that season 2 years ago pretty well, and then it really dried up, and then they weren't able to score goals. It feels like the same thing's going to happen this time. I know from personal experience, Hugo is not Premier League quality. Adam Adar is too young for that kind of responsibility and possibly not good enough really either. So they need to get another striker in, because without that, they are going to struggle for goals. Before the sale of Danny Ings to Aston Villa, I would have said that Southampton will be fine, score some nice goals, generally be quite interesting and fun to watch, but will concede a few goals as well. Now, I think there could be some problems ahead. When you concede 68 goals, that's the second worst in the division last season. West Brom, the most was 76. And then your main guy, your get-out-of-jail free card with 12 goals last season makes way. There could be problems. And look, you see Grealish leaving his boyhood club. Could James Ward-Prowse be next? I wouldn't be surprised. You could almost expect it. I mean, you might not. With a team that struggled defensively so badly, Vestergaard is one of those players that really needs a big season. He's a threat in both boxes and defensively quite malleable, as you saw from that Danish side in the Euros. He's going to be huge, quite literally, for Southampton. Biggest strength has got to be set pieces, and James Ward-Prowse is pretty much unrivaled now at this stage. And you've got Behemoths like Vestergaard in the box, you've got a chance. Weaknesses, I mean, there's quite a few, to be honest. First of all, squad depth, a lack of balance in terms of that squad depth as well. You look at, they sign a left back in Perraud, and then they don't really have anyone if he gets injured. You've got Danny Ings, who's gone out the door. It looks like he's going to have about 30 million to spend with that, and they need to spend fast. So a big weakness is going to be it the squad itself or the cohesion of that squad, because they need to make changes and signings, and they need to make them quickly. With Spurs, expect Nuno to possibly revert to a back three. If you ever look at the preseason game so far, it's been a 4-2-3-1. But we know with Nuno, he does like that back three, and it is something that could work quite well. You've got Doherty on that right-hand side. You've got Reguilon on the left, and 3 centre-backs that might be able to do a job for them as well. So expect maybe Nuno to kind of have a little look at that if the season doesn't get off to the best start defensively. Key player, Dele Alli. I want to see it. I want this to be the year that he comes back, and I think it's there. We know there's a great player in there, and I think with age comes maturity. I think he's a switched-on guy. I think he's an intelligent player, and I think this could be it when maybe someone like Harry Kane leaves the club, if he does leave the club. Then someone like Dele Alli, there will be a space there for him where he's not moving around Harry Kane all the time. And he'll have that clarity and freedom in his role that he's important to the side, and that could allow him to flourish. The biggest strength for Spurs is that the expectations have dropped somewhat, and they are an unknown quantity, I think, at the moment. And I think what's really sad is that they've got City for their first game. But if they can get past that, without too much kind of mental scarring, as it were, and get into that second game and get themselves moving in the right way, then the fact that no one really knows how they're going to set up under Nuno could be huge. Biggest weakness, I think, with Spurs is the media circus around them, and they feel a bit wounded at the moment, and I think, the press are kind of after that. Obviously, Spurs sometimes can be seen, I don't even want to say it, but as a bit of a banter club because of the trophy thing, all that nonsense, and the media circus is something that they need to cope with. I think with Nuno, I think there's actually something nice in that. The fact that he will remain calm, and he is a very kind of graceful, composed man. And I think if he can get past that initial feeling, then maybe the season can be okay. But he has to kind of get past that because, again, that media circus will be ready to jump on Spurs as soon as they start to struggle this season. In Xisco Munoz, you've got a Watford manager there who generally was quite attacking, but I think what happened a lot of the time is there was really good game management actually from Watford. What's going to be interesting to see if they can convert that into the Premier League when you're not dominating games maybe as much, or you haven't got that same kind of comfort as you would have as a dominant team in the Championship. But last season, 23 clean sheets for them. That's an average of 0.7 goals per game. They've got experience there in the likes of Foster, the likes of Deeney, the likes of Hughes in terms of the Premier League, Ismail Assar as well. Expect counter-attacking football. This was an attacking manager. It really was, you know. And in terms of win percentage, he's got the greatest win percentage of any Watford manager ever, 73.68%. So a lot of people won't be expecting anything from Watford. Expect them to do a little bit better than you think. Ismail Assar. The guy's great. João Pedro's a really exciting player up front as well, but in those wide areas, he's done it in the Premier League before as well. He will be a match winner more often than any other player in this Watford team. Biggest strength, I think, is the morale of the entire playing squad. I think going into this new season, you've got a lovely mix of those older, experienced players that want another crack at it and those younger guys who've got a point to prove. And I think that's a really massive advantage when you've got a team that's playing for each other as well as with each other. Biggest weakness, I think, is pretty obvious. They're trigger happy, aren't they? I mean, to put it into context, last season, Vladimir Ivic, in the same week that he got sacked, he got the Manager of the Month award. So as good as the feeling can be around the playing squad and a lot around the manager, it only takes 3 games and he's out the door. West Ham, I don't think too much will change tactically. I think he will, drill down on the strengths of this team last season. Lingard, that's a problem. Are they able to get him before the end of the window? If not, I think they'll have a long list of players that David Moyes will have seen has similar kind of traits and strengths that they will look to bring in before the close of the window to play in that position, because that's a lot of goals for you to lose. Key player, Said Benrahma. I did a video on him last season when West Ham signed him. I said, this guy is the real deal. And I truly, truly believe that. But he needs to kind of step up. Last season, 1 goal and 6 assists. Wasn't really good enough, but he's maybe playing in the shadows, and maybe he can step out onto centre stage this season, maybe playing in that Lingard role, or if he wants to continue on that left-hand side, offering a little bit more from those positions as well. The biggest strength, I think, is the consistency of the mentality of this West Ham team. If you look at the pre-season games, beating Brentford, beating Celtic, they've carried on that great form from last season, and I think there's a quiet determination that David Moyes has and his team has as well. It really is in his own image. I think the biggest weakness actually for West Ham is maybe that they might be suffering as the season goes on with their own success, because teams will be playing West Ham and looking at them very, very differently. I think last season, there's always, with these teams that really kind of shoot up the league, I think people go, we'll be all right. And then the next season they go, okay, right, actually we need to be switched on for this. And I wonder if that might happen and make life a little bit harder for this West Ham United team this season. Some people talking about, the fans coming back and that being a part of it. Nonsense. I think you'll see a real harmony between the expectations of the fans and the expectations of the manager and the club. If you're expecting wholesale changes from Larger going into this season, from the data that we can kind of see at the moment from those pre-season games, I'm not really seeing it at the moment. I mean, there's a 3-4-3 that they want to play, so that will continue on from last season, but I think it might be one of those where it's a slow evolution as opposed to a quick one. Key player for Wolves is going to be Francisco Trincao. Really excited to see him play, and he's going to have that right wing position, I think, because Traore looks like he might be leaving. Again, this one might not age too well. He might still be there, but of course you've got Neto out of the side as well, so I think Trincao will have to kind of take up that position. Can he deal with the physical elements of the Premier League? We know technically he's great. He had an incredible under-21 championship, scored against England as well. So I think he's going to be really important for a team that struggled with their creativity last year. Biggest strength, it's got to be the return of Raul Jimenez. I mean, he was so integral in terms of the amount of the goals that Wolves scored were coming through him, be it assist or a goal. So to have him back and to take the pressure off Miranda lookalike Fabio Silva, Google it, I think it's huge. When you've got that kind of attacking quality up top, if he can, find his feet like he has done previously, then that's really going to help Larger settle in. Biggest weakness, and it's not really a weakness, it's more of a kind of concern. In terms of the recruitment, you've got Jose Sá from Olympiacos, the goalkeeper. You've got Yerson Mosquera from Atlético Nacional. Now, I've got nothing against the Greek league or the Colombian league, but in terms of the recruitment, when you've lost a manager that you've had for ages. That does make me a little bit concerned. Are you bringing in players that are, making the first team better? Not sure. So there you have it, guys. Your number one loser, James Allcott, has offered up a season's guide. He's even spoken in third person. What a knob end. But look, show some charity. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel. And I mean it. Subscribe to the channel because I want to get to 150. I actually really want to get to 200,000 this season if I can do it by May. So be a part of it. Hit the subscribe button. Hopefully you've got something out of this. And let me know what you think in the comments below. And I'll see you next time. Ta-da.